Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I have the pleasure to show you two very special vintage watches sent in by Caseback Watches viewer Ryan. And I'm speaking about a GUB watch from East Germany, former GDR. Glashütte Uhrenbetrieb is the translation. And a Cornavin. This is a very rare brand, old brand from Switzerland with quite a history and with a grand date or a big date, which is very interesting. And what caught my attention here is rarity and condition. This I really learned in the vintage world, that when you have to estimate the value of a watch, then you have to take in consideration rarity, of course, and the overall beauty, but number one is condition. Very important. You don't want rust or anything broken on the watch. You want a slight shimmer of patina, not more. And around the Cornavin, we had a little discussion on Instagram where I showed the word watches first, and some viewers said, "Oh, I thought this is a Russian brand. What's going on here?" And I did a bit of research, and in fact Cornavin was founded in the 50s in Switzerland, so it's a Swiss brand. But then, under, let's say, pressure of the market in the 70s, they started to produce more affordable, or let's say cheap watches. And they did this by importing movements and parts from Hong Kong and Russia. And this created the impression that this is a Russian brand, because I think they couldn't any longer put the wording Swiss made on the dial. And nowadays you will find a modern Cornavin on the internet, but I'm not sure if this is a direct successor or just a modern company which grabbed the historic name. This you find very often. I had a diver with the wording Landeron on the dial. By the way, little wristwatch check. I'm wearing my Rolex Datejust from the 80s. Back in rotation. I enjoy it immensely. Absolutely great watch and a keeper. Okay, but now let's go in the lightbox. Let's check out those two watches. Let's begin here with the GUB, which stands for Glashütte Uhrenbetrieb, which means basically watch manufacturing Glashütte, which is a town in eastern Germany. And the piece you see here is from the 60s. And you see at first glance a very typical 60s element, the vintage logo, the 12. With this characteristic font, relatively simple hands without lume, indices, very pure. And what's extraordinary here is the dial layout with a day above the date. This is a hand-winding piece with a caliber 661, an in-house caliber, and it's very rare, as said, to find such a piece in this condition. You find them often with massive corrosion on the dial, because the watch is not really waterproof, I think. And the reason for this, or one reason for this, you can't see here. There's a little pusher, see that? And before we push that pusher, let's go over the measurements of the piece. For a vintage watch, relatively big with 35.5 millimeters. So the length overall is 42, thickness 13.5, and the lug width is contemporary 18 millimeters. You see here it is on a nice high quality leather straps, and it's just a beautiful ensemble like that. And I will put the watch on my wrist in a minute. This watch is serviced, full working order with original part, like this hazel lead here. The crown was replaced. This is often the problem, that a crown from a hand winding watch is often really worn out, really small, not enough grip anymore, and so they replaced it with a generic crown which fits the style perfectly, I must say. Really well done. The case is gold plated. Here you see some scratches, some signs of usage there on the lugs especially. The case back is stainless steel. And there you see the word wassergeschützt, which means not waterproof. It means like, yeah, protected a bit against water. Walz Gold Doublé is the method of plating. Operating the watch now. Hand winding, as said, feels very new because of the recent service. Then you have only one position. And this is for setting the time. Now you can see the date and days changing. And now it's a bit strange, because there's a quick set like this. I can go back, and then you have another change. But the pusher is also responsible for the date. And so I assume there are really two ways to quick set the date. but there is not a quick set for the day. At least this works like that. I'm using just a little stick here because I don't want to scratch anything. And there you see that the date is changing, but not the day, with position 1. And then I thought, okay, but let's do it like this. Maybe this is not no different. But no, the date is changing, not the day. So this is how this watch works. And now let's put it on the wrist. Let's see how it looks like on a 17 centimeter wrist. And here it is, perfectly fine on the wrist. Really nice strap. And you see it's very elegant, but at the same time it has enormous wrist presence. And so I'm very, very happy with that. Okay, and now let's go to the next piece. Here we have our Cornavin with a spectacular look. Look at this. Ryan told me that this is late 40s. I found the information that this model was introduced in the, let me check my notes, 1955. And so this is often the case with vintage watches, that you have different sources which provide different informations. And so we're speaking here about, let's say, 5 or 6 years between late 40s and early 50s. And the model is called the Datocor. Datocor, and it has a grand or big date, as you can see, and a very distinctive form. Let's go quickly over the measurements. We have here 33 millimeters in case diameter, 41 is the length, 17 is the lug width, and the thickness is 10. Very slender watch, steel case, and very dominant lugs. And this is luck for us, because this small watch nowadays is wearable because of this those massive forms here. Again, enormous presence on the wrist. And Ryan says this is an NOS watch, so new old stock, never sold, never worn. I'm very cautious with this term, but in this case I really must say this is close to perfection. There is nothing nasty on the dial here. And what also is very important, note please that the varnish on the dial doesn't go over indices or those little dots or numerals. And this is very important because you see a lot of refurbished dials and you can spot them under, let's say, a magnifier. Then you see very uneven edges where the varnish meets the metal of the index, for example. Very important because it reduces the value drastically. And here you see the look you want. Everything is crystal clear. The Swiss here is not handmade. Often you see this, and it's hard to distinguish sometimes from a machine-made print, because the machine-made print back then was also sometimes a bit rough. And so marvelous look. Note the crown. I think this is a new generic crown again, but very, very beautiful. Well chosen, absolutely. And you have again a pusher. So again, not waterproof. This watch is on a guarantee not waterproof. The Caseback here provides certain information: anti-magnetic, Inca block, stainless steel, the usual things you can write on a Caseback. And inside is a very interesting movement. This is a Venus movement, and Venus is a bit like Landeron and Valjoux, so the companies are long gone, but they delivered high quality, and Venus is somewhat under the radar. And so it's, let's say, easier to buy a good working Venus movement with a really decent quality than a Landeron, because everybody wants the Landeron. And this particular movement is a Venus 211 with the Grand Date. And now let's operate it because it's a nice look. One position again, one crown position. And now you can see how the date is changing. There it is. And this is an advanced system because it doesn't work with one date wheel. It works with 2 plates for every part of the number. And so it's a much more complicated mechanism, but it allows to display very big numbers here on the dial. And you set those numbers again with a quick set with a button, with a pusher. Again, I'm using wood because I don't want to scratch this, and it's complicated to do this with the camera, to be honest. There you are, works absolutely fine. And this date will go on, so you can see there the 32nd of a month. So at the end of the month you have to manipulate a bit, but I think this is a pleasure. And as said, hand hand winding watch. And now a good question is why the industry went away from this pusher system to manipulate a date as a quick set. And I think they did it because this is another entry for moisture, for humidity, for water. But this is more fun, to be honest. Okay, let's put it on the wrist. And again, 33 millimeters, which is very small by today's standards, but still wearable because of the very dominant case form and the wonderful play. Look at this, how the light plays with this marvelous dial. And so really, really great watch, a really good watch. Ryan, you're a lucky collector, lucky man. Welcome back. I hope you found this interesting. At least I've learned a lot. And so Ryan, thank you very much for the trust and the willingness to share your collection or parts of your collection with the audience. And Ryan told me, just wear them, change the straps, play around with them. And you know what? No, I cannot do it. I mean, here the watches are under insurance as always, but outside wearing those pieces, I'm not sure. I mean, imagine the situation if you lose such a piece. Of course, you can recompensate the financial value of the pieces, but buying them again, where, how? And so I took 1 million images and I made this video and I babied them around a bit here in the house, but not outside. And when you're watching this, Ryan, the watches will be in the mail unharmed and yeah, in full working order. Okay, and that's it for this video. In the next episodes, I can show you some really interesting pieces. They're still in the mail. I hope they get through because they have long distances. And I want to add some other aspects to the program. People constantly ask for more content in direction style and leatherworks and tailoring. And I was always a bit afraid, what would the watch community think of that? And is this really a good way? But you know what? I'm an idiot because the solution is crystal clear and very easy. I just make videos about a nice watch at the center, and then I add some other content parts and then timestamps under the video, and so we have really nice packages with more aspects, and so I think this can work. Okay, but that's enough now. Please join me on Instagram if you want your sneak previews, and let me thank you very much for your attention here, and until next time.